We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Zayin Amid Beis in Meseches Sotah. This is Sotah Daf 37b. The Gemara is in the middle of counting the amount of brisos, the amount of covenants on every mitzvah. And the Gemara had said that every mitzvah has four components. That's Lilmod, Ulalamed, Lishmor, Velasos. And additionally, within each one of those components, you have a general blessing and a specific blessing, and a general curse and a specific curse. So it's going to be a total of 16. 4 times 4 is 16. Because again, you have Arba, you have these four components, and then Arba, V'Arba, Hare Shmona. 4 and 4 is going to be 8. Shmono, Shmona, Hare Sheish Esrei. And if you have 8 and 8, that's going to be a total of 16. Again, what it essentially means is that on every single component of each mitzvah, and again, there are four components, Lilmod, Ulalamed, Lishmor, Velasos. On every one of those components, you have 4 in terms of blessings and curses. You have a general blessing and a specific blessing, and a general curse and a specific curse, and therefore it's 4 times 4. That is a total of 16. V'chein b'Sinai, v'chein ba'arvas Moav, and the same exact thing occurred at Sinai. Again, this was a discussion of Har Grizim and Arevel, but the same thing is true by Sinai when the mitzvahs were given, and the same thing is true in Arvos Moav at the plains of Moav before they were to enter Eretz Canaan. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Eila divrei habris asher tziva Hashem es Moshe, uchsiv shmartem es divrei habris hazos. It says these are the words of the covenant that Hashem commanded Moshe, and you have to keep this covenant nimtza, so it comes out mem ches brisos al kol mitzvah mitzvah. So if you're going to do 16 times 3, because you have Sinai, Arvos, Moav, and then Har Grizim and Arevel, so 16 times 3, it comes out that there are 48 covenants on every single mitzvah. And we will take a look at the Rashis, which are found on the previous Amud. V'chein b'Sinai, likewise by Sinai, kishenemru kol ha-mitzvahs l'Moshe, when all the mitzvahs were given to Moshe, nitnu kulam ba'oru v'orach bechlalu prat. So again, all of the mitzvahs, they were given with a curse and a blessing, both in general and specific. V'chein ba'arvos Moav, and similarly at the plains of Moav, kishe'amar liYisrael k'dechsib be'ever hayardin be'eretz Moav, hol Moshe v'gomer, at the plains of Moav also Moshe gave over the Torah. Shenemar, and then the Gemara brought psukim, shenemar eila divrei habris basar klolos uvrachos ksiv milvad habris. After the klolos and brachos, it talks about besides for the covenant, and the point is alma kibris arvos Moav bebrachos uklolos kach bris bechor. You say that the pasuk is comparing the covenant that was by the Arvos Moav in terms of the brachos and klolos with the covenant that was by Har Sinai. And Rashi notes the Har Grizim with the Harevel lo itzrich le'su yekra da'alo koyu v'ayri. We don't need to bring a pasuk in terms of Har Grizim and Harevel, because that's how the whole sugya started. We've already been dealing with Har Grizim and Harevel. Ushmartem es divrei habris hazos lo garis lehachan. Rashi also notes the pasuk which is brought by the Gemara, that pasuk ushmartem es divrei habris hazos should be taken out because it is not relevant and doesn't add anything to the discussion. And the Brisa continues, Rabbi Shimon motzi Har Grizim v'Harevel. Rabbi Shimon takes out Har Grizim and Harevel, umachnes oel moed sheba midbar, and instead he puts the oel moed in the midbar. Rashi explains, Motzi Har Grizim lefi shelo amar Yoshua alein kol haTorah lemitzvah sheba parsha. The reason why he takes that Har Grizim and Harevel is because Yoshua didn't say over the whole Torah over there. It was only the specific mitzvahs that were mentioned in the parsha. Umachnes oel moed, and instead Rabbi Shimon brings in the oel moed shelo achar shukam hamishkan nidbar Hakadosh Baruch Hu Moshe b'yishav v'limdu kol haTorah. After the Mishkan was put up, Hakadosh Baruch Hu gave over the whole Torah to Moshe. K'dechsev vayidaber Hashem eila me'oel moed. Lay more like it says, Hashem spoke to him from the oel moed, saying. And the Gemara continues with a plug. This machlokas tanoim here above is the same as the following machlokas tanoim. The Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Yishmael Omer, Rabbi Yishmael says, Klolos nemru b'Sinai upratos b'ol moed. According to Rabbi Yishmael, the general parts of the mitzvahs that was said over at Har Sinai, and then the specifics, the details, that was at the Ol Moed. Rabbi Akiva says, Klolos upratos nemru b'Sinai. Actually, the klolos and the pratos, the general and the specific, was said over at Har Sinai. V'nishnu bo'ol moed was taught a second time at Ol Moed. V'nishtal shu b'arvos Moav, and then a third time by the plains of Moav. Ve'ein loch kol dvar mitzvah sheksuva b'Torah. There's no mitzvah in the Torah. Shelo nichrasu aleh arboim u'shmona brisos, like we said above, that doesn't have 48 covenants. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish Kfar Akko Amar Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda of Kfar Akko, he said in the name of Rabbi Shimon, Ein lecha kol mitzvah sheksuva b'Torah shelo nichrasu aleh arboim u'shmona brisos. There's no mitzvah in the Torah that doesn't have 48 covenants. Shel sheish meyos elef u'shloshas alafim v'chamesh meyos v'chamishim, of 600 603,550, meaning to say that there's a concept of arvus, that each person is responsible for the others, that they should fulfill the mitzvahs. Rashi says, Klolos nemru b'Sinai, the general things were said by Har Sinai, Bistam nemru Torah b'Sinai. This again was the first opinion of Rabbi Shmuel. It was given over to Har Sinai v'lo nisparshalo, but it wasn't explained. Kigon b'Sinai nemar v'zovachta lo v'solosecha v'yashalomacha. For example, it might have said by Sinai, you're going to bring these karbonos v'lo perish matan damim. Doesn't say the specifics of the blood. Ketzar aktar semurim, and the emurim, the limbs, and the emurim when they burn the parts on the mizbech, rather v'hefshit v'nituach v'chol shel ola. All of the specific details of the karbonola of Sefer Vayikra Be'ol Moed Pirsha, but that's explained in Sefer Vayikra by the Ol Moed. And then the other opinion was, no, everything was at Sinai, and then it was repeated, and it was repeated again, V'nishtalshu b'Arvos Moav, a third time by Arvos Moav, Mipi Moshe liYisrael, from Moshe to Klal Yisrael. Tanakam was svir like Rabbi Shmuel. Now the point over here is that the Tanakam we brought above holds like Rabbi Shmuel, Hilkach Har Sinai v'Ol Moed Chadahi, and the idea would be that Har Sinai and Ol Moed is really all one, because you have the Klolos and Har Sinai, and then you have the Protos that you have by the Ol Moed, so that's all considered like one, and so that the Ol Moed is not like a second time. For Rabbi Shimon, svir like Rabbi Akiva, Hilkach Treinin. Now Rabbi Shimon holds like Rabbi Akiva, and that's why it's considered two separate times. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda, Omer, Arboim, Mishmona Brisos, and then again, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda said 48 covenants. L'chol echad shel sheish meos elef u'shloshas alofim v'chamesh meos v'chamishim. Again, it's 48 covenants for the 603,550 Keminyan shayu. It's the amount of people that there were b'midbar in the midbar. Shekol echad nasa orev al kol echad. The idea is that everybody is like a guarantor that his brethren will also fulfill the mitzvahs. Hachi garsinim b'tosefta Amar Rabbi l'divrei Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda. Again, there's no mitzvah that doesn't have 48 covenants of 603,550. Meaning, again, there is in every single one 603,550. And this statement of Rebbe that Rashi just quoted is now in the Gemara. Amar Rebbe says, L'divrei Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish Kfarako, according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish Kfarako, Sha'amar Misham Rabbi Shimon, who said his opinion in the name of Rabbi Shimon, Ein loch kol mitzvah shebetorah shelo nichrasu alea, arboim u'shmona brisos shel sheish meos elef, or shloshas alafim v'chamesh meos v'chamishim. There is no mitzvah in the Torah that doesn't have 48 covenants, again of 603,550. Nimtzo l'chol echad v'yechad mi-Yisrael sheish meos elef, or shloshas alafim v'chamesh meos v'chamishim. It comes out that for every individual in Klal Yisrael, there's 603,550. And the Gemara says, "My beinaya." What exactly is the difference? What's going on with these numbers? Rashi over here explains, "My beinaya, my Mosif Rebbe." Over my pligi, what is Rebbe adding? Rebbe seems to be adding something to what he's quoting. He says it comes out according to Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, etc. What is Rebbe adding? And the Gemara explains, "Amar Mesharshia arva v'arva da'arva ika beinaya." There's a machlokas over here. The machlokas is it a guarantor and a guarantor of that guarantor? That's the difference between them. And Rashi explains, Amar Mesharshia arva v'arva da'arva im nasa kol echad orev al arvuso shel chavero olo. What they're arguing about is every single person not only a guarantor for everybody else, but also a guarantor for the fact that the other person guaranteed someone else. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda savar lo nasa kol echad orev al chavero el sheyishmur as ha-mitzvahs. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda says every single person, he is like an orev on everybody else that to make sure that they do the mitzvahs. Nimtza kol echad v'yachad orev al memches briso shel kol echad v'yachad. It comes out that every individual is a guarantor on the 48 covenants of every other individual. Avalo nasa kol echad v'yachad orev al arvos shel chavero. However, we wouldn't say that each individual is a guarantor, that the other person should also be a guarantor for everybody else. El al chovaso shel chaver. In other words, the person is only a guarantor. Reuven is only a guarantor to make sure Shimon does the mitzvahs, but Reuven isn't a guarantor to make sure that Shimon makes sure that everybody else does the mitzvahs. V'yasa Rebbe l'meimer l'divrei Rabbi Shimon, and so that's what Rebbe is coming to add. Rebbe comes and says that according to Rabbi Shimon, shabo limnos es brisos o arvos, who's coming already to count the guarantors, yesh lo limnos arboim u'shmona brisos shel shishim ribo l'chol echad uv'chol echad o eile yesh shishim ribo. It's going to be, you're going to guarantee all 600,000, and then among those, there's going to be another guarantee of 600,000. That's the idea. Shekulam nisarvu zeb v'zel chovosim, because everybody really is a guarantor on everybody else's obligations. V'al arvusam, and then you're also a guarantor on the fact that they're a guarantor. Nimtza kolechem nekabel olav arvus shel shishim ribo. So it comes out that everybody is accepting upon himself to be a guarantor for 600,000 b'shvil chovos shel chavero, because because of the obligations of his friend. And every one of these 600,000 is accepting 600,000. It's because of the fact that each person is a guarantor, and each person is accepting that. And the idea is this person is accepting even the fact that the other person has to be a guarantor. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rav Yehuda ben Nachmani miturgamone de Rav Shimon ben Lakish. Rav Yehuda ben Nachmani, who was the disseminator for Rav Shimon ben Lakish, he darshaned as follows: Kol parsha kula, the entire parsha, lo nemra ela benoef v'noefes. It's all talking about situations of adultery, meaning that whole parsha that describes what would happen at Har Grizim and Har Evel. All of those sins are really relevant to the sins of adultery. How so? So, for example, the pasuk says, "Curse is the man who makes idols." But is it enough just to curse somebody? Idol worship is a grave sin. Rather, what the pasuk is talking about is noef and noefes as follows. It's talking about a situation of arayas, v'holid ben, and then they have a son, v'holach lebein ovdei kochavim, and he goes among the idol worshippers, v'yavad avodas kochavim, and he serves the avodas kochavim. He serves the idols. Arurin aviv v'imo shalzeh. So we're saying cursed is the father and mother of this individual, shekach garmulo, because they were the cause of this to happen. And Rashi explains, Kol parsha shel Har Grizim lo nemra ela b'noef and noafes. Again, the whole parsha of Har Grizim is talking about noef and noafes. But or sagile, is it enough with an or bitmi a kofer be'ikru v'sagile ba'or? This person's a kofer be'ikru, and it's enough just to say that the person is cursed. It can't be talking about such a grave sin. Elazeh habal ho'erva eshes ish. We're talking about a situation of a married woman, and they have a child, v'holin mamzer, so the child is a mamzer. When we talk bo'ushto, she'll also love a bakol. Now, because he's so ashamed that he's not able to enter the community, he can't find a wife, so he goes to the non-Jews, he goes to the idol worshippers, and then he serves avodas kochavim. That's the curse. We're cursing these individuals, these parents, that caused this to happen. And Rashi says, with every single one of the psukim, you could darshan it in the same fashion, according to whatever the context is of the pasuk. It has to do with noef and no office. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbon, and the rabbis taught, V'nasatas ha-brocha Har Grizim v'sa-klola. Ma Talmud lomer. What does the pasuk mean over here? The bracha and Har Grizim, the klola and Har Evel. Im l'la'ab mein shetei bracha Har Grizim u'klola Har Evel. If it's just to teach that the bracha is in Har Grizim and the klolas and Har Evel, Harei Kvar Nemer already says, Eli Yamdu levarech esam al Har Grizim uchsiv Eli Yamdu al klola b'Har Evel. That the pasuk already says that the bracha is on Har Grizim and the klola is on Har Evel. Ela lahaktim bracha l'klola. Rather, it's to tell you that the bracha comes before the klola. Yachol yu kol ha-brachos kodmos l'klolos. Now, I might think that all the brachas came before the klolos, meaning they recited all the brachas first and then all of the klolos. Talmud lomar bracha u'klola. The pasuk says bracha and klola. Bracha achas kodemes l'klola means one bracha is before the klola. Each bracha came before its counterpart klola. The ein kol ha-brachos kodmos l'klolos. It's not that all of the brachas went before all of the klolos. And furthermore, lahakish bracha l'klola. It's to compare the bracha to the klola. Lomar lach, to tell you ma klola b'leviyim af bracha b'leviyim. Just like the klola was by the leviyim, so too the bracha was by the leviyim. Uma klola b'kol ram. And just like the klola was said out loud, af bracha b'kol ram, so too the bracha is said out loud. Uma klola b'lashon hakodesh. And just like the curse was in Hebrew, af bracha b'lashon hakodesh, so too the bracha was said in Hebrew. Uma klola b'chlal uprat. And just like the klola was in general and in specific, af bracha b'chlal uprat, so too the bracha is general and specific. Uma klola elu ve'elu onen v'yomer amen. And just like by the klola, everybody answered amen. Af bracha, so too by the bracha, elu ve'elu onen v'yomer amen. Everybody answered amen. And Rashi explains, Yachol kol ha-brachos kulan kodem l'klolos she'igmru kol ha-brachos tchila. Maybe you would think that they would say over all of the brachos first, ad baruch asher yakim, all the way till the end of the parsha over there, baruch asher yakim, v'yachar kach yiftechu b'klola, and then after that they would do klola. So again we say, no, each bracha comes before its klola. And how do we know it's in Hebrew? B'lashon hakodesh. That Rashi says, b'lashon hakodesh k'di alfinan kol kol mimoshe. That's learned out. Again, as we said earlier, it's a gzer shaveh kol kol from Moshe. That's talking about by Moshe by Har Sinai, that we understand that it's said in Hebrew. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Birchas Kohanim Keitzad. How does Birchas Kohanim work? Medina Omer Osa Shalosh Brachas. In the Medina, meaning outside of the Beis HaMikdash, they would say it over as three separate brachas. What that means is that they would say over each pasuk, three separate psukim, and they would answer Amen after each pasuk. Over Mikdash bracha achas. But in the Mikdash, they said all of the psukim, all as if it was one bracha. Rashi explains, Mikdash bracha achas l'fishein onin amen b'mikdash. The reason is simple, because they didn't respond to Amen in the Beis HaMikdash, so there was no interruption between each pasuk. V'yein tzarich kan shum hefsek, there was no need over here for a hefsek. V'hachim mefarish b'Gemara, this is how the Gemara explains it. So that's why again in the Medina outside of the Mikdash it's 3 brachas, and in the Beis HaMikdash it's one bracha. But Mikdash Omer es Hashem, in the Beis HaMikdash they said the name of Hashem the way it is actually written, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph.